Welcome, everybody, to Funeral Nation episode 186. I'm Ryan Thogmartin. That is Jeff, the Funeral Commander Harbison. And this is a shelter-in-place Funeral Nation episode.
Yeah, it certainly is. Looks like you got out in the sunshine there. Good to see
I'm
that
on the porch.
there is a little bit of blue clouds, blue sky coming through there in
A
Ohio.
little bit, finally. After about 45 days of rain, it seems like here we are.
Yeah, it's interesting. Here in Arizona, we're going to be close to 90 next week. So we've almost skipped the spring and jumping right into summer. And however, I look forward to it. It's time
That's
to be
right.
there.
Yeah,
Ryan, this is a time of crisis. I mean,
it is.
there's this, the number one subject now is coronavirus. And in just a few minutes, we're going to have an owner visit with us, Russ Weeks from up in Washington, to share how they, at the very onset, are weathering the storm, what they're doing with families, how he's preparing staff. And you don't want to miss this interview.
No, it's good stuff. But we wouldn't be able to have this show and do this interview without you and your team at C&J Financial.
Okay, so at C&J, we're working from home. Everybody's out deployed. Our staff is doing a monumental job and still getting funding for assignments. And if you're not part of C&J, we want to make an offer to you to take a little bit off your plate and help you get those insurance assignments. So here we go. The Funeral Nation special, 30 days free, no fees, not to you, not to the family. And also, we'll do up to $25,000 in funding for free. So give us a call. Reach out to me on Facebook. Reach out to me either at jeffh@cjf.com and let us know how we can help you. What have you got to lose at this point?
That's right, Jeff. I mean, shoot, there's free money sitting there. Go get it.
That's it. And you're not having to waste time on the phone. Your staff doing it. Let us do it. That's what we do professionally. So, Ryan, there's a lot going on, and I think there's no better time in technology. You and I, off camera, had a discussion about advancing us. Will you regurgitate what you shared with me?
So yeah, Jeff, in the last I'd say 3 weeks, we've had more conversations with funeral homes that have called and said, look, we're way behind the 8 ball on this technology thing and social media. How do we get up to speed? And so I think a positive out of this is that it's helped move the profession forward from a technology standpoint, and we're really starting to understand the sheer value of being able to communicate the way the consumer wants to communicate.
Right.
I think also, you and I talked about this, that right now there's a lot of states that have banned funerals altogether and gatherings, and then almost every state right now has a limit or restriction on the number of people at a gathering. So it's made funeral homes have to get creative how they serve families in that capacity. But also, when you take the funeral service away from the consumer and there's something that they want they can't have, hopefully through this it's putting more value back onto the gathering and the life celebration, and we'll see that going forward on the when we come out of this kind of season, that the consumer is going to see much more value in the gathering and ceremony around, whether it's a burial or a cremation, just the ability to be able to gather.
Sure. I mean, I read an article about a firm up in New Jersey that was working with a family, and just the lack of hugs.
Yeah.
And, if you think about that, that's something. The funeral business is very personal. It's very personal from the people who attend and the people who are working in here. So, one of the ideas come about is that when you are, as a funeral home, working with a family that has been restricted, right then give them options, the ideas of what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a longer term safe planning that we can do this in the future. Let's go ahead and plan everything, but just hold off on the date.
Yeah.
Don't let it go that, gosh, we're just doing a graveside or we're doing a cremation. We'll contact you when it's over. Go ahead and implement those ideas. Go ahead and put them into place and just leave the date open.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm excited to have our guest on, Russ Weeks from up in Washington. So let's go ahead and roll that interview. Everybody, we're excited today to have Russ Weeks from up in Washington. Russ, you haven't been on before. I know you're a big effing fan, and I'll give a shout out to Katie who works with you. We see you guys at the conventions. We don't get to see you now, so how about introduce yourself, if you will, to our funeral nation?
Sure. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Ryan. My name is Russ Weeks, and my brother and I have a group of funeral homes in the greater Seattle area. That's other than being a father and a husband, that's me.
That's it, huh?
Yeah, well, that's a pretty big title in itself. And speaking of being a father, you just had an event on top of everything else you're dealing with in your family. You mind sharing how that went?
We did on Saturday, the 21st, our daughter married her then fiance from Ireland, and he squeaked in here, moved here just before the travel ban went into effect. They got their marriage license 3 hours before the marriage place, whatever government agency, shut down, and squeaked in just before they put a ban on all gatherings for the wedding.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it was only it actually they excuse me they had put the ban in place, but because it was just our household there, they were able to have that.
That's
Wow.
awesome. Wow. Good timing all the way around.
Yeah,
It works out. That's something that sounds really solid. It's a heck of a story they'll tell their grandkids.
that's what I said.
Well, Russ, you've been in some respects at the very forefront because Washington was one of the first that had issues with the virus. Will you share with us what's going on with your funeral home, how you guys are protecting yourselves, your families? I know Washington also has been at the forefront of cancellations and restrictions. So, as an owner, sharing this to other owners and funeral directors out here that may not have yet been to your level, more likely it's coming.
I would say it's definitely coming, and I applaud our state leaders. I'm not usually big fans of theirs, but I really applaud them for the actions they've taken to keep everyone safe and separated. Um, and I think I'm hopeful that we will see that effect. I know for a fact that the official numbers, lag behind what we're actually seeing. The official numbers that were released on Saturday, March 21st, matched the unofficial numbers we had seen from Friday, March 13th. So
Oh,
it was
wow.
nearly a week lag time. I'm hopeful that they're catching up, but I don't know that. I've since stopped counting unofficially, and but we're also having a hard time getting people tested in our area. So anything, if I can encourage you to take it seriously and keep your distance, please do that.
Wow.
From a business standpoint, we've like everybody else, we're struggling to make sure that we have enough PPEs. That's a large concern. Though we have taken inventory company wide, and we feel pretty good about where we're at. There are a few areas where we're probably short, but we're working on getting those.
Russ, how is dealing with COVID-19 affected processes at the funeral home for removals and other things that would just be normal operating procedures?
It I think there's a certain level of anxiety across the country, but that's true in our staff as well. So it seems counterintuitive when we instruct staff to have the minimal amount necessary to do the job. In other words, if one person can do that job safely, don't have two or three people in the room. And yet the response from staff is almost like they need more people because they I don't know if they feel safer in numbers,
Mm-hmm.
but but we've got to remind them continually, don't have extra people. It should be the minimum amount necessary that you do the job safely. Our procedures really have not changed that much, other than you had Corey Gaffney on the other day, and he mentioned covering the faces,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're making sure we do that on all removals, and wearing a probably just being a little more cautious. Certainly wearing full personal protective equipment when we are notified that it is a death from the virus. But other than that, it hasn't had a huge impact on how they are reacting. Some of the shutdown and the stay-at-home orders, that has had more of an impact on how we interact with the families.
So what are you doing differently based on that order?
All arrangements are done by phone or over the internet. Just as we're talking now, we can do that with families and have arrangements that way. We've locked the funeral homes, so families will call us. We put signs up so our staff is still there, but families will call us, and then we will bring out urns or death certificates or whatever they're asking for. We'll bring them out to their car, and that way we have less interaction, less people coming into the building.
I see. Is there something that you can share with other owners and, let's say, lower infected states that they can prepare for or stock up or anticipate? For instance, if they don't have Zoom or they don't have this, go ahead and get it up and practice it. Those sort of things, good practices that will help them from your experience as this really came on you guys pretty quickly there.
I would, yes, I would recommend that they take an inventory of personal protective equipment, make sure they're comfortable with what they have. We don't want to hoard, but we want to make sure that we have enough for our staff to safely serve families. That would be number one. And then, just as you said, find whether it's Zoom, Skype, Microsoft Teams, whatever you're using. And I'm sure there are a number of others.
Right.
But just do a quick practice. Send an email to your one of your family members and see if they can open it up and you can communicate over the internet. Those types of things will be helpful in trying to create that rapport with families. And the other thing we have done, we've asked our asked our staff to call families several times throughout the day, just to check in to make sure that they still feel cared for.
Good. That's excellent advice.
Yeah.
So, the interesting part is we're not sure how long this is going to go. And what's the current status of what they're asking you in Washington as far as no ceremony, people attendance? Where are you guys at as of this morning?
There are no gatherings. You're to leave your house only for essential work or grocery store prescriptions, those types of things. And I forgot what your question. I was looking at that.
Excuse me. What type of restrictions are you having to deal with there in Washington specifically? You did share or say that there's basically no gathering. So, in effect, there is no funerals with visitations, much less great nothing. So, you guys are you still able to are still performing cremations and direct burials? What are you doing in order to meet those needs of the state and family?
Yeah, we are. It's a difficult balancing act, and we are telling families that we cannot have viewings, we cannot have gravesides, no ceremonies whatsoever. We are allowing one person from the family to do an identification, and we know with one person, there's no chance of transmission, and so we feel like that's the best balance where we can still meet the need for positive identification as well. But there are families that are calling different funeral homes trying to ask if that funeral home, will they let them do something? And we just have to say, I'm sorry, we'd like to, but we're not able to.
All right.
Are you offering services at a later date? And do you see this creating a grief and kind of mental health problem in the future with families that are forced to not be able to have any type of celebration?
That's probably one for Dr. Wolfelt to answer. My hope is that through this, there will be enough people that miss having a ceremony that I'm hopeful that it will actually demonstrate the need to have a ceremony and the need to have ritual, and that our community in a larger sense will recognize that there's a need to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And So I'm hopeful that it will have the opposite effect. We will be contacting every family we serve during this time, regardless of what they've chosen to offer a larger gathering, another gathering at a later time. I think it'll be a great community outreach,
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, it will also allow us to generate some income, make up a little bit of what we're losing now.
Right, that's another scary issue, that that lack of income from those sort of uh, I'm going to say traditional gatherings
Sure.
is put on hold for a while. So that's a whole nother issue that I actually posted something a while back that this will have financial ramifications, and like, no, how's that going to happen? We're in the business. Now we're seeing it.
Yeah.
Well, Russ, we're grateful that you came on here. We think a lot of you and your staff and team up there. Y'all have always been big effing supporters and fans. And so it's great that you came on. And I think this is of value to other funeral owners and professionals that haven't gotten to the level that you guys are there in Washington. And I'm sure you'd encourage them to reach out, and you'd provide any help that you can as far as advice.
Absolutely. I enjoy just talking about business and talking about funeral service. So anybody wants to reach out, I'd love to talk to them or bounce ideas off of one another.
All right,
Excellent.
awesome. Well, thank you, and we appreciate what you're doing. You're on the front lines out there on the battlefield of the coronavirus. You're taking care of your staff and family, and we just pray that things continue to stay at a semi-normal state where you know
Yeah.
what to do.
Yeah.
My concern is what's after this. We've already done all we can do. What's the next phase? But we'll just live through that and deal with it as it comes.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks,
Thank
Jeff.
you. Thanks, Russ.
All
Take
right, well,
care.
take care.
Well, Commander, I mean, it's great to be able to have somebody here that's in the front lines, kind of in the trenches, dealing with multiple cases, and just seeing, I mean, one of the benefits of this show is that we're a resource, and being able to have people like Russ on that can give guidance and have conversations. I mean, this virus has kind of united the profession in a sense where, this is everybody is dealing with the same thing, and the more we can share and the more we can help each other, the better the profession will be at large serving families right now.
I agree with you, and you know it's unprecedented in our modern times. And so I want to applaud all the folks on the front lines out there that are still working, serving families. Y'all are heroes. We appreciate what you're doing. We acknowledge it. We also would love to hear from you what you're doing different, special, great stories that came out. Let us know so we can share with other folks. Speaking of letting us know and working hard, is our friends from Plotbox. They're they're bared down as well, because it's just not the funeral profession, it's also the cemetery
That's right.
profession. We
Right.
kind of lump those, sometimes separate, sometimes we lump them together. But there's some interesting times for the cemeterians too. And we implore you to reach out to folks at Plotbox to help you.
Absolutely. Well, Commander, next week you and I will be together again virtually, along with 9 other companies in the profession. We're launching the first ever funeral unconference, where there's really not an agenda. It's going to be panel discussions, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, an hour each day, with some of the top brands in the profession and thought leaders in the profession, really talking about, one, we'll probably hit on how each company is adapting to serve funeral homes and help funeral homes serve their client families better during this season and this pandemic. So tune in. It's free to register. We will put the link in the description of this video, and make sure you check it out. And even if you can't attend live, the recording will be provided to everyone that registers immediately following the live stream. We'll also be live streaming this through the Connecting Directors Facebook page as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited about it, and we're having a bunch of signups preliminarily. So you guys jump on there. We love to share what's going on in our profession with vendors and thought leaders.
That's it. Okay, Commander, you stay safe
You
where
too,
you
my friend.
are, and it's crazy because we may have 2 or 3 weeks in a row where you're not traveling and I'm not traveling, which will be very odd.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. It There's a lot more to be said. I think it will be fun. We talked about it with Russ a little bit. Maybe we can do some fun stuff with funny stories that's happened, at
Yeah.
home with families being together and how I'm seeing some of the greatest memes in the world that,
Yeah,
teachers now don't get enough money to be paid.
that's
You're
right.
taking care of kids, and I've just seen all sorts of hilarious videos and stuff coming out. So
Uh,
in the times of trouble, let's also keep a light heart.
that's right.
That it's a good thing to laugh as
Well,
well.
my kids are extremely upset because they're homeschooled, so this really hasn't affected their school schedule whatsoever. They just don't think it's fair.
Yeah, that's tough.
That's life.
All righty. Well,
Okay,
thank you,
sir.
man, and we'll see you soon
All right.
out here.
Till next week. Have a great effing week.